Tim Stevens, welcome to Leadership Pathway. Leadership Pathway, we're all about helping people get into ministry and stay in ministry and helping the people they're working for support and develop and hang on to them. And it's a privilege to welcome you for this conversation.
Really grateful to be here, Dave. We've known each other for, I don't know, 15 years, something like that.
15 years.
Is it? No, maybe
I
not
th
that
I
long.
thought you were going to say since the top of the hour. I thought you were going to make a joke or something.
I'm not that funny.
Well, listen, people know you as the Grainger guy, the Vanderbloemen guy, right? Then
Yeah.
the Willow Creek guy, leading smart, author, consultant, coach. What's the best job you ever had? All the way back. I
Best.
mean, you might say in
Okay.
seventh grade, my best job, I was a church janitor in eighth grade. It probably was one of the better jobs I've ever had. What's the best job you've
Yeah.
ever had, Tim?
I think the right answer is dad and husband, but I'm going to go vocational because
Yeah,
I think that's where you're going.
that's where I'm going.
That's where you're going. So, you know what? I I have been fortunate to have most of my career and most everything I've done really loved what I'm doing at the time.
Yeah.
If I'm kind of looking for highlights of that, I would say there was probably 10 or 12 years at Grainger, which it felt like a 10 or 12-year honeymoon at
Hmm.
a new job kind of thing,
Hmm.
where, man, we just had an amazing team. We were
Yep.
all heading the same direction.
Yeah.
And you wake up every day glad to go to work with the people around you
Yeah.
and also having no idea what we were doing, making it up as we went.
Right. Those
And
those
so,
that was in the
yeah.
90s?
Yeah, I started there in 94 on staff
All right.
and was there for 20 years. So, yeah, 90s, early 2000s, just a really special season.
Yeah.
Uh, I think my first several months for sure at Willow Creek when the world shut down
Right.
and we don't know anyone. Dave Dummett and I are there just trying to figure things out, build a new team, help
Yeah.
help an organization recover, and
Yeah.
got really tight with. We called them the transplants, like the three or four of us families that kind of moved in to help, and so found a lot of camaraderie with that group, and we were doing something we didn't even know if it could be done. Like,
Right.
can this ship be righted? Um, can we help this local body become a thriving church again? So those were special days too.
Well, a bunch of us we were shocked and glad
Hmm.
when it popped up you were doing that back then.
Yeah, I was shocked too. It was,
Um, since you left there in 23, is that right? You were there 3 or 4 years.
yep, I was on staff about 3.5 years. It's still our home church, but rolled off summer of 23.
We work with young leaders, some of them, whether they're an intern or a resident, they're not completely full time, right? And as the world goes, things happen at churches. They start in August and everything's great. And we're launching campuses and 10 church plants in the next 10. Well, they've got their vision or the thing. And it's just like, wow, you go here, and then something happens. And we don't even have to talk about it because we all know what happened because it's been spectacularly across, our social feeds and the news and
Yeah.
things. And I've had a few instances where young leaders are calling me and they're like, bro, did you know what's going on at my church? And I'm like, yeah, yeah, I didn't want to call. I'm glad you called me. And what do you think? And it's in that moment, it's one of those normally I have my go-to. I'm very confident, or I feel like the Spirit has given me words to tell this person what to do in that moment. So you've gone in the aftermath and helped one get righted. It at least it appears that way, and now it's
Yeah.
transition on. What would you say? Someone who's just starting in ministry, this is their first thing. What would you say to a young leader where it's real time, it's happening right now? Would you say run? You should run from, go someplace. We thought it was healthy. I'm sorry. You should run from this. Or no, there's something to learn here and buckle down. In hindsight, what would you tell somebody?
Yeah. It wouldn't be run, at least not initially. I would, I think what I've learned is like in any of the really hard seasons, like when you're in them, you can't figure out why you're in them or why you're still there.
Yeah.
And yet you look back when you have the opportunity to look back 10 or 20 or 40 years and see, oh, wow, I now can see exactly why.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad I stuck that out
Yeah.
because I learned so much through that. Um, it's easy to become, I think, especially for young leaders, old leaders too, but it's easy to become jaded
Yeah.
when something like that happens at your church or your organization, when someone that you had rightly or wrongly on a pedestal
Yep.
falls.
Yeah.
It can you can get cynical about that. You can get jaded about that. You can say the church is no different than the
Yeah.
world.
Yeah.
You can run from the local church, run from ministry, and sometimes I mean, there's a lot of good people doing good work outside of church and ministries.
Right.
But I also think it's like the reason we get into this work is to help broken people, and sometimes
Right.
those broken people are in the church,
For sure.
and it takes people uh, living lives of integrity, doing the next right thing, taking the next right steps to stay
Yeah.
in organizations to bring back that health.
You and I started ministry about the same time, I think. When I think of those early, really, when I think of anything pre-COVID, it seems so innocent. Almost, it seems like those were just the most innocent. They weren't innocent of days, olden times, right? When I talk
Yeah,
about starting in ministry with the people that I'm around every day, it's like they're waiting for me to say, and the dinosaur walked across the lawn as I looked out the window from my office.
yeah,
Predicting success. Let's talk about that for a second. You've seen young leaders, I'm sure, in the 90s and the 2000s and the 2010s and of today. You've seen young leaders you thought were going to be great and they don't pan out. And I know you've seen others that you're like, I don't know. I don't know about this one. And they do pan out. And you've done it even vocationally with Vanderbloemen in the staffing world and your consulting and all that. So both as an executive pastor and in your consulting seat, when you think about predicting success through the volatile years when you meet a 20 to 25-year-old, what are the core what are you looking for in those moments if you're interviewing or someone's asked get Tim Stevens' opinion on this person that just applied and they're a rookie. There's not a lot of work history.
yeah,
You're looking at like their stories they're telling you about their soccer coach in 10th grade or
yeah.
their sophomore year of college, but there's not a lot of work history to look at. How do you predict success? Because it seems as difficult as ever from where we sit. What do you say?
Yeah, and I've had the chance to like interview probably at least hundreds, probably thousands of,
Yeah.
um, I was gonna say kids. They're not kids, young adults in that
Right.
phase of life.
Right.
Um, and I think what I'm looking for, and sometimes I've got it right, and sometimes I've got it wrong, right?
Right.
So, predictive success with people is a bit difficult, but I think some things I'm looking for are people that are young leaders who are um, putting into place the disciplines, the small decisions in their daily lives,
Yeah.
whether it's in their spiritual walk, whether it's in their money, with their money, whether it's with their relationships, um, that they're paying attention to the small things. They're not seeking the spotlight too quickly. I think that ruins leaders quicker than anything, is if the spotlight comes too fast, and they're not always doing it to themselves. We older adults do it to them sometimes. We put
Yeah.
them in the spotlight way sooner,
Totally.
and then they can withhold the weight of that. I'm looking for leaders who lead where they are, who aren't clamoring to be at the table or in the
Mhm.
room, but they're wielding their influence day to day, wherever God has them, wherever that organization has them, and humbly just learning and leading and like learning. Yeah. So I'm
Yeah.
looking for, like, if I see someone who's a hungry learner, they're always just asking questions and they're trying to be better, do better, learn more, versus kind of walking in where they pretty much have the answers. And
Right.
that's not an age specific thing,
Yeah.
but I think if early 20 somethings can figure that out,
Mhm.
just determined to be a lifelong learner, then they're gonna have opportunities open way more quickly than they would otherwise.
Coming out of Willow and now consulting, what do you call it? Consulting, writing, coaching full time.
Yeah.
What are you seeing? You went into Vanderbloemen and worked on it for a few years, right? The pipeline, the staffing crisis, the whatever, however you want to frame that up. The growth industry. I was a slingshot guy. You were a Vanderbloemen guy at the same time.
Right.
We were headhunting. We wouldn't call it that, but we were helping staffing. We were staffing, helping people find. What do you see now that you're out of that and you're out of the executive pastor seat? And I guess you're walking into church with your wife. You're
Yeah.
volunteering,
Yeah.
working from home, doing what you're doing. What are you seeing in terms of staffing right now?
It's pretty tight. It feels like it's tighter than it's ever been,
Yeah.
as far as the organizations, churches, even helping my adult kids find jobs, just like finding good people and then good people finding good organizations that actually have openings. It's really, really tight right now, especially in the from what I hear from churches in like next gen ministries, student ministries, kids ministries. That's always been true to some degree, worship leaders,
Hmm.
but it's more true now than it has been in a long time. So I think this was true back when I was at Grainger. We were really strong advocates from developing and hiring from within.
Yeah.
Even when I was at Vanderbloemen,
Yeah.
I would, if a church was like, "Hey, should we hire you?" It's like, well, I don't know. Have you looked inside
Right.
first? Don't hire us until you've,
Right.
shaken the bushes there. But I think that's even more true now. Like you'll like it used to be like that's a really smart practice as a church
Yeah.
to develop leaders and grow from within. I think now it's required because
I
you're going to
think
have
it
a
is too.
really hard time finding them.
Right.
When
I
it's,
think 6 or 7
yeah,
years ago, I would say, you might think about starting today. I'm like, when I'm on the Zoom with a church of 200. I'm like, you have to do something. You don't have to call it residency. You don't have to call it internships. But when you look around the team, if there's 200 people there, that means there's 20 or 30 or 50 that you could text on your phone that they know, you know them, they know you, they're the core. Who could do something on your
yep,
staff team? Whatever you want to call that, and start a process by which that opportunity could be there in a year or 2 years.
yeah, yeah. I encourage churches leadership teams to just keep a constant list of who from our congregation, our organization, who do we think would be fantastic on this team? Don't think about like what
Yeah,
position or well, they've never been a student pastor. Forget that. Just make
yeah,
a list, keep a list. Who fits our DNA? Who is like, man, we need them at the table in the room, helping us lead this thing. And then when a position comes up, just really do the exercise of, well, we said Rob Jones would be fantastic on our team.
right.
Is there any way he could possibly be a fit for this? Can we
Amen.
train him? Can we give him experience? Can we get him some exposure? Because that piece is the chemistry culture piece is
Mhm.
such a hard thing to fit when you're hiring from the outside. It's,
Yeah,
it's a it's a crapshoot.
yeah,
You get it sometimes and you don't
yeah,
sometimes.
yeah. Okay, let's talk about Tim Stevens, 18 to 25. Let's go back. Um, who was Tim in high school as a high school grad? We all know you as Tim Stevens today, but who were you then?
Yeah, I
Who
might
were
go
your
back a
people
couple
in
more
high school? Were
years.
you the athlete? Were you the band
No.
guy? Nope.
Yep.
Smart kid, good student.
I carried this like, I don't know, 40-pound French horn with me. Starting in middle school on the bus. Kids don't make fun of you for that, do they?
Oh,
I was taking piano and French horn, and I was
okay.
decent at both. And somewhere around, I don't know, eighth, seventh, eighth, ninth grade, I can't remember why, but I had to choose. Like it's like I can't do both. And silly, stupid Tim Stevens chose French horn, which has zero. use in life. I mean, piano, I could have been in a band,
There's,
right?
I mean, there are 30 people in this country that make a living playing
In the
French
world,
horn full
maybe.
time in
Yeah,
the
I don't know.
world, maybe. Yeah.
But yeah, I was definitely the band guy. I was also, I went to a private Christian school that we had about 30 to 35 per class. So maybe
Yeah.
whatever the math is, 140, 150 for the high school.
Yeah.
So super involved in student senate, and really began to figure out. I had a teacher named Linda Wessel who kind of
Mm.
grabbed a hold of me like seventh, eighth grade and said, "I see some leadership chops in you," and she just really
Isn't that
pulled me
great?
into figuring out like this little nerdy band kid can has some influence that he doesn't even
Mhm.
know, and carries some weight. And so really grateful for that
Yeah.
opportunity. And somewhere around 16 or 17, really had the sense that, well, rabbit trail for a second. I mentor young adults with this organization called Generation Distinct,
Okay.
and their byline is helping these young adults find the wrong in the world that they were born to make right.
Oh,
So I didn't have the language for that
yeah.
when I was 16, but I definitely was trying to figure that out. What's the wrong in the world I'm born to make right? And for me, it became a sense of like, I think it's going to be in the church space, the ministry space. I don't know exactly what that means. I don't see myself as a preacher. I don't see myself as a youth pastor. I don't see myself going to the mission field, but I
Okay.
think I'm supposed to be in and around, like, I think I'm supposed to wield my influence and my leadership in and around church space. So that was kind of a probably from the time I was 16, like that was locked in on that.
Where did you grow up?
Des Moines, Iowa, mostly from
Okay.
kindergarten on.
You grew up in the church, religious
Gr-
family.
Yep, grew up in a very conservative. On the church sign. It said Independent Fundamentalist General Association Regular Baptist Bible Believing. All of that on the sign. So uh,
Wow, the French horn plus well, I can't even repeat that. But
yeah,
you add
no,
the
you
French
can't.
horn into that. Oh, that's good. That's
School was part of the church, and
okay.
looking back, um, fairly legalistic, fairly,
Yeah,
all of the answers were there. Everything's black and white.
right.
So, I had to unravel that
Sure.
through my 20s and 30s, but I
Hmm.
would say the grounding that I had
Yeah,
in scripture and all of that was really solid,
yeah,
and really functional family,
right.
brother and a sister, parents that loved each other and
Yep.
that led us well, raised us well. So really good upbringing.
So you had a teacher in the Christian school that spoke into you at seventh or eighth grade. Who was the pastor or the youth pastor? Or when you looked around, if you started by age 16 or 17 thinking about working at a church someday, there must have been someone you were looking at
Yeah.
thinking like that guy.
His name was Greg Bishop. We thought it was funny because he was Pastor Bishop, but he was a pastor, but not a bishop, but he was Pastor Bishop. Anyway, yeah, he came, I think probably came to our church about the time I was in eighth grade and was
Okay.
there till a couple years after I graduated. And he did very similar. And he was trying to make me into a preacher, which
Right.
didn't stick.
Right.
Uh, but he was pulling me in as often as he could. I probably was 16 the first time that he put me up to preach for like big church on a Sunday
Yeah.
night,
Yeah.
and did that a couple times, and then probably realized, oh yeah, we should find something else. But it was really great experience. And then when I was in, uh, yeah, I think probably the first semester of my senior year, a traveling revival ministry came and held services at our church, and they were services every night for two
Yeah.
weeks. And
Yeah.
God really did a work in our church during that season. And then that group recruited me to come there right out of high school. So I was probably the first semester of my senior year, I was already committed to go, and I didn't know what I wanted to do in ministry. So my sense was this, we didn't call it a gap year back in
Right.
'85, but it was
Yeah.
kind of a gap year.
Yeah.
It was like, well, I'll just go do this for a year. They were
Yeah.
recruiting you for, young adults for 1 year at a time.
Yeah.
So
What
went
was
there,
that
traveled
called? What
around.
was that ministry called?
It's called Life Action Ministries.
Yeah, out of
Um,
Michigan.
yeah. Yep.
Buchanan. Buchanan.
Buchanan, you got it.
Canton, Michigan.
And back then, yeah, so my parent, I was 17 when I accepted.
Yeah.
I turned 18 in June of 85, and 2 weeks later I was starting with this organization, and they dropped me off in Buchanan, Michigan.
You raised your money.
Yep.
They did some practices. What was your role on the revival team? What'd you do?
They recruited me to be a sound engineer, front of house sound. I was kind of a tech geek along with being a band geek. So for the one night production traveling team. So we did these
Yeah.
productions with huge screens
Yeah.
and big trucks and equipment and
Yep.
all of
Yeah.
that. And we would go around the country. We did 250 that first
Yeah.
year. Every night, 6 nights a week, we would
Oh,
do, set up, tear down, production, stay with people, listen, tell your story, get
yep.
up the next morning, get in a truck, a
Yeah.
bus, and go to the next place. So really great experience. What it did for me, again, growing up fundamentalist Baptist church, it just exploded
Exactly.
in a great way my view of the kingdom of God and like how God's working through various churches.
Tim, do you speak Enneagram personality test?
Yeah,
Are you introverted? Not more introverted or more extroverted?
more introverted. Yep.
And that must have been,
Enneagram.
I've done a little, I never did 200 nights or 250 nights a year, but I've done some summers staying in host homes back in the
Yeah.
day. And this is foreign. I don't know. I mean, I know Life Action as of a few years ago is still going,
Yeah,
right? And
it
still,
is.
but it's not a lot, not nearly as much of that stuff as there used to be, I think.
Right.
That was pretty normal for us to host college kids and traveling things.
Yep.
And yeah, you sit there and you just wear them out asking them questions till midnight, right? That must have been not easy
Yeah.
for an introverted French horn audio guy.
I didn't know I was an introvert until that
Right.
year
Right.
because I grew up around the same people
Yeah.
for my entire life.
Yep.
And so did not realize till then, every single night and
Yeah.
they want to hear your story and they
Right.
want to, and you're just like, and that's after a full day of setup and production and
Yeah.
teardown. So, but man, wouldn't change it for the world. What a great
I mean, what you
experience.
were learning walking into those churches. Can we move the communion table? Can we put the
That's right.
screens here or not? Context. We would call all that like you're learning to listen and try to understand these people in about 6 minutes before all the stuff comes off the truck. And where's it going to go? And
Yep.
how loud? Oh my gosh, the audio guy? You were the audio guy.
I was the audio guy. Yep.
How
And
loud is too loud in 200 and something different churches in 1 year?
yeah,
That's a
it was
moving
interesting
target.
because we would set up in a room that maybe had pews for 130 people. We
That's right.
had different sizes of screens and
Yes.
setups. And then we would be in convention centers where there'd be like we did a bunch of these Amway
Yeah.
conventions. We get
That's right.
10,000 people
Yeah.
in a huge arena. And
Yeah.
so and you're doing both of those kind of, night to night to night.
Okay, so you did the gap year thing, even though it wasn't called that. And then what? Then what'd you do?
Gap year turned into second gap year. So
Yeah.
by the end of that first year, there was some leadership issues on our team.
Right.
And they said, "Hey, Tim, can you help manage this team, kind of direct this team, get it from point A to point B?" So, again, I'm barely 18. There's students or young adults on this team that are 25, 28.
Yeah.
But they were asking me to lead. And so I just loved it. So then the second year, they said, "Hey, would you stay one more year? And we want to actually have you lead a team on a different team." This was a revival team. So
Yeah.
they didn't move every night. They moved about every 2 or 3 weeks.
Right.
And so I did that. And then towards the end of that, just really started wrestling with, okay, like I'm just getting all of these opportunities to lead. I
Right.
feel like I'm learning every single
Yeah.
day. Why would I go sit in a classroom
Right.
for that to extend my learning? And met with some people that were, 30 years older than me
Yeah.
that were getting to know who I was. Um, and they just said, you could totally do that. And some people really do need a classroom environment for learning. All four of my kids have gotten 4-year degrees. My wife
Are
has
you
a 4-year
heading
degree.
towards telling me, Tim, that you didn't go to school?
I did 9 gap years and now I'm on my 40th gap year.
I I have no idea. I
Yeah.
love this story even more.
Yeah.
This is why I
So
have this conversation with people. So you didn't do school.
I have not done one semester of college. I did a couple accounting, like online learning things early on
Tim, this is a
that I
conversation we're
needed, but
having. We're having this all the time with people,
yeah.
and a lot of and, like your upbringing, my upbringing too. Small high school, we didn't have all those names on our sign, but we should have because it was the same
Hmm.
upbringing in Lexington, Kentucky. And in those days, you just went to college. I mean, that's it, my parents
Yeah.
didn't, but my older brother had and my older sister had, and there were no conversations about it. You went to college. I hated it so much. I made sure I was done 4 years later. We literally have a guy staying at our house right now, and he works for a group called Christ in Youth, CIY, and they
Okay.
do a
Yeah.
hundred events. I mean, it's large scale
Big
production
camps and
stuff.
stuff.
He's
Yeah.
you. He's a modern day
Okay.
version of you, and we have this conversation all the time with people like, where's this going for people? I was
Yeah.
up in the great school. A buddy of mine is at Cedarville University.
Two of my kids went there.
And these days it's 50, I don't know, 50. I mean, I'm
A
sure no
lot of
one's
money.
actually paying that with scholarships and all, but it's like I'm meeting these students last year, and they're youth ministry majors. They're worship majors, right? They want to go work at
Yeah.
fill in the blank, and they're very talented. Unlike us, and well, I'll speak for me. I won't speak for you. Unlike
Right.
us in the 90s, like these kids actually are like they're sharp and great, and they appear as though they have big futures ahead of them. But financially, I'm just doing the hoops in my mind as I'm listening to them talk, knowing what they're walking into. And we've begin to say things like, hey, school's not for everyone. But the peer pressure of Christian parents in these environments like you grew up and I grew up in, peer pressure of the parents as their 18-year-olds trying to make a decision.
Yep.
And the decision tends to be my denomination school, Liberty, or Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
Do I want to
Right.
go to the East Coast? Do I want to go to Liberty, or do I want to go to Grand Canyon University? But very, very few, but it seems like more every year are starting to say, is there a different path for this?
Yeah.
I had no
Yeah.
idea, man. I thought you were Mr. MBA from some legit school.
Yeah. No, I've like in the last 10 years, like looked like maybe I like because I really love business and love studying business, but um haven't done it in a degree format. But man, every
Yeah,
single
of
day
course,
I'm
you've got your
increasing my learning.
degrees. You've got
Yeah.
multiple MBAs, just not the paper to show for it.
Not the paper on the wall.
Um, okay, so you did, how long were you at Life Action?
So I stayed there 9 years. I met
Oh
my
my
wife
God.
there.
Oh,
We did 5 years on the road, and then after Faith and I met and got married, then we did 4 years. I was in leading a few different departments. I eventually led all of their recruiting for all the teams
oh wow.
from the home office.
How about that?
So we'd recruit, 30 to 60 young adults a year for these
Yeah.
1 year or for these teams. So did that so until I was 27, and then we started attending this little church startup that was
Yeah.
meeting in a movie theater not far from our house called Grainger Community Church, and fell in love with the vision, the mission, the leaders, and yeah, made a transition.
So from Life Action to Granger, I had no
Yeah.
idea. In your exec roles, there are certain execs who are the business minded. They're on that side, right? When the roles split into two or three different
Yep.
roles. Are you the business exec or are you the ministry's people side exec?
So good question. At Grainger, I wore all the hats. We only had
Right.
one executive pastor, and it
Yeah.
was doable because I was there when there was 4 people on staff, and we grew to about 130 on staff. So I kind of grew into it, right?
Yeah.
So I was able to kind of manage it all. When I went to Willow, I went there to be the executive pastor, and then as we kind of started looking at structure, it's like we should spread this out.
Right.
So I got to pick my seat, and so I picked
Yeah.
campuses and culture. Um, and then we had an operations, a CFO who became our executive pastor of operations, and then we found an executive pastor of ministry. So it's three of us kind of carrying
Okay.
that load. But I definitely have the operations brain, but I live more on kind of the strategy,
Right.
organizational health side of things. So my pastoring, my shepherding
Yeah.
comes through the staff and not so much for the congregation. And I just have such a strong belief that, man, it's all about the right people
Yeah.
and the right people, and then developing the right people, and then building health in the organization so those people can thrive
Where,
is
yeah, where did that show up the earliest in your life, do you think? What does that come from? Way back to, because I just believe, the experts, the smart ones, tell us, I've skimmed the books about how the brain's being wired up between the ages of 20 and 25 or something. What we're going through in those days, it kind of, if you look for it, it comes back in
yeah.
later years. So where does this concern for healthy culture and healthy people and getting them in the right seat, does that come from the life action days of watching?
That's a great question. It probably started before that, but definitely as you asked that question, what was interesting was every year, especially those 5 years where we're traveling, it's a different team.
Yeah.
So in because of that, it's a different culture. So I saw from year one to year two, I saw
Yeah.
year one where we had some leadership challenges,
Yeah.
which me as like a barely 18-year-old
Right.
could see like
Yes.
this is not healthy. And it was a toxic culture, and there
Yeah.
was backbiting, and there was
Yeah.
gossip. Um, Me and a friend of mine, they named us Danny and Darla Do Right because we wouldn't play the game of
Oh,
going into their negative, cesspool of
right.
toxic conversation. We just wouldn't play.
Yeah.
And so, but anyway, I saw like a very, very unhealthy culture that from the top down was not working. The next year, and the next really 4 years, had an opportunity with varying degrees of health, but a much healthier cultures, different leaders,
Yeah.
um, different teams, and then I really got to start to pour into creating good cultures, and
Yeah.
because my biases or my belief is culture is not ever static. It's
Right.
either getting better or it's getting
Right.
worse.
I agree with
And
that.
where it's getting worse, it's because either bad leadership or you're just not intentionally helping it get
Yeah.
better. And
Yeah.
so, I, figuring
Here's
that
what
out early
here's what
on.
I've seen on that point to interrupt.
Yeah.
Uh, if you ask a 20, like a resident, an intern, you're like, hey, if you just think right now, your relationship with your boss, if I said to you, you're either moving away or you're moving together, what's it feel like right now? They all have an answer for that. They can all
Yeah.
tell you. And that stuff gets we know it when I don't know that everyone would say when we feel it that way. But a 22-year-old can tell you, is it better today than it was last week, or are we drifting? Am I avoiding something there? Am I not
Yeah.
going to the smoke, so to speak? So you watch
It's,
these combinations of
yeah.
19 and 20-year-olds come together, and you got what, 3 weeks to rehearse it, make it right before you hit the road. That's
Yeah.
that's some solid training on putting
And then
things
you're in the
together.
grind, 10,
Yes.
12-hour days, 6 days a week. And so, when you get pressured, that everything comes out. So like, I just really became, I think probably, and I probably didn't think this until now. It was probably in those first 3 to 4 years, 18 to 22 years old, when I realized first became aware of how important culture is in
Yeah.
the functioning of a team or organization. And like, we've got to pay attention to that.
Yeah.
And then got to really build that at Grainger, a few years later from the ground up to
Yeah.
really build, a healthy team.
The Life Action build and then the Grainger build. Did you get bored with them eventually once it's working well and it's all built? Are you ready for another problem, or those transitions you went through in your 20s and 30s? Why'd you move on?
Yeah. I never got bored at Grainger.
Okay.
Was there for 20 years,
Okay.
and 15, 16 of those years were up into the right, just
Yeah.
amazing growth. Like,
Yeah.
we have no idea what's going on. We're just trying to figure it out. But every day was a challenge. So my role, I would have definitely gotten bored if things were in maintenance mode, but
Right.
there was never maintenance mode.
Right.
So always a new challenge, always something, you wake up in the morning and you're like, there's something I don't know. And
Right.
the world has changed overnight,
Yeah.
and we got to figure this out. And there's geniuses on our team that know stuff I don't know. So I need to pull them together, and we got to figure this out. So that was just a ton of fun. So it wasn't boredom that
Right.
uh, moved me on from Grainger.
Yeah.
It was just a sense of um, our leader was going through a transition just as he kind of got closer to late 50s, early 60s, and it was just a real sense that he needed a different leader
Yeah.
next to him. He was kind of jumping intentionally kind of jumping back into like the day to day, and
Yeah.
so he just needed someone that would execute.
Right.
And so he and I talked about for probably a year and a half, and eventually I just said, "Hey, let me move out. Let's move someone else in." And that's when we moved down to Houston to
Right
work
on.
with Vanderbloemen.
Yeah. Leadingsmart.com. That's where we can find you. What are you working on? What has you excited these days about leadingsmart.com?
Yeah, so Leading Smart, we're a team of church veterans. We've all been working in and around churches for our entire careers. Holly Tate's working with me. Dave Dummett's now working with me. David Whiting's working with me.
Yes.
So we come alongside churches and help them solve things. So that tends to be in succession. We're doing a lot of work
Okay.
with churches with long-timer founding pastors.
Okay.
Move through that transition both personally and helping the church move through that. We're doing a lot of work with leadership team dysfunction and or trying to get them healthy in
Yeah.
some larger churches. We're doing work with churches, small and large, on board health
Yeah.
because you see great leaders in great churches with dysfunctional board relationships that drive those leaders away, and then that church
Sure.
tends to circle for years and years without the health that they need. And we're doing a lot of coaching with executive pastors, with senior pastors. We do some gatherings for executive pastors. So probably the best place to go to leadingsmart.com/podcast. That's probably the
Okay.
newest thing we've done. We started a podcast. Season 1, 10 episodes was on
Yeah.
succession.
Okay.
And season 2, which we're in right now, it's called 40 Lessons in 40 Years. So
Yes.
July was my 40th year in ministry. So I'm just reflecting on kind of like we've talked today, just some of the learnings over the 40 years that hopefully can help younger leaders.
Well, listen, your gift to the kingdom, your stuff, the Leading Smart books, and then that last one you wrote, which is called, it's slipping my mind. Help me.
Marked by love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Kindle reads for sure on my Kindle. And so I appreciate your work and your team and what you're doing and the independent, fundamentalist, general Baptist, small high school, fundamentalist, French horn playing, culture creator,
Non-college kid.
non-college. I'm so glad we talked. I'm so glad I
Yeah.
heard that.
Thank you for the opportunity. This is
Yeah,
fun.
man. And we're going to do all we can to put as many people into ministry so they're there for the succession plans in the next
There you go.
couple of
I love
decades
that.
as possible. So you get them on the back end, we'll get them on the front end, and maybe together.
If I'm still doing this in 30 or 40 years, man, I'll be glad to help them. I'll be glad to.
Oh, wow. Yeah. All right. Tim Stevens, thank you so much for being on Leadership Pathway.
Thanks, Dave.
Mhm.